Hello everyone, welcome to this week's topic on simple inequalities. This week's topic is actually one of my favorite topics of all, right? Which is about the more than or less than symbol. And it's again very simple, so let's go through it right now. Okay. So what is inequality? Inequality means something that is not equal. So by not equal, it's also the same as more than or less than, right? Okay, so, oops. So what is an inequality? An inequality means to not be equal, right? And in this case, it will be either more than or less than. That would be the two cases if it is not equal, right? There is no other possible case, right? Either it's more or less than, right? And in these two cases, how we represent it, so for the equal sign, you already know this, right? If I want to represent an equal sign, it would be with the two parallel lines equal, right? But what about more than and what about less than, right? So today we will talk more about it. Okay, so how do I actually read this sign? Okay, equal is very simple because it's parallel. You can sort of guess that it is the same, right? But then for more than, right, what we do is that we read from the left to the right. Okay. So this is for the reading of the sign. So what do I mean by this? So if we read from the left of the more than sign, you will realize that the left-hand side is actually fatter than the right-hand side. You see that? So the left-hand side is fatter than the right-hand side. So it's almost like it's funneling, right? So from a more to a less, right? So in other words, if I were to put x on the left-hand side compared to 4 on the right-hand side, x is more, so it's bigger than 4 because the 4 is on the smaller tip. Okay, so that is how I will read it. Okay, so let's take a look at maybe less than. So it's in the same way, we read from the left to the right. So for less than, you see that the tip over here from the left, it is smaller compared to the side on the right, right? So this means that we are going from a smaller value to a bigger value, okay? So in other words, the one on the left should be smaller. So if I say 4, right? Just now we were saying x is more than 4. Then I can write it in another way. 4 is less than x. And do you realize that the 4 is still facing the smaller tip? So we can actually see the values this way. Okay? Yeah. So that is one thing that we will be doing. Okay. Another sign that we will learn in this topic is the equal sign at the bottom of the more than or less than. Okay, how do I read this? I will read it as more than or equals to. And then for the other sign, it will be less than or equals to. Okay, so more than or equals to, do you see that the more than sign is here? So this is the more than sign on the top. And then for the less than sign, it is over there. So why do I need this, right? Because I already have equal sign, I have more than sign, I have less than sign. Why do I need a more than or equals to sign? Okay, let me give you an example. So let's say there are possibilities of the value of x, right? So x can be, if I write x is more than 4, like just now, right? But then what if there was a possibility that x could be 4 itself as well, right? Then I would write the equal sign at the bottom of the more than to state that x could be 4 as well. So it will be x is more than equals 4. Okay, right? Then less than equals to also follows the same thing, right? It is just adding the extra possibility that it may be equal. And this will be further elaborated on, and you'll understand it better with the worksheet. Okay, I've now already gone through the symbols. Okay, but what we need to think about what does it mean when x is more than or less than 4? Okay, let's say we look at this example, x is less than 4. What it means is not that we actually have one value of x. Because that is what we are very used to. X equals to 4 means that it can only equal to 4, it's one value. But when we are talking about inequalities, if x is less than 4, okay, x could be -7, x could be -2, could be 0, it could be 1, it could be 2 out of 3, right? That is the amazing thing about inequalities, that it gives us many, many possibilities, okay? So right now, we're talking about less than or equals to. So what's the difference between less than and less than or equals to, right? So x is less than or equals to 4. Okay, so what happens with this equals sign at the bottom of the less than means, right, that a possible value of this is 4, right? It could be a solution, right? Rather than if I'm talking about x is less than 4, then x cannot be 4 because x is less than 4. You know what I'm saying, right? Yeah, so you can complete this. Okay, and then if we try to apply our knowledge on the numbers itself, you know that 4 is less than 9. So I'll give 4 the smaller tip and give 9 the bigger tip. So 4 is less than 9, okay? And the same thing goes here. If 2 is more than -2, right, because it's positive, then the bigger tip goes to the 2 and the smaller tip goes to the -2, okay? And you can try that for the rest of the numbers, okay? One last thing and very important thing that is the difference between equations as well as inequalities is the fact that, let's say if I were to multiply or divide numbers of an equation, okay, I give you an example, x over 3 equals to 2, okay? It is okay because as long as I do it for the left-hand side and the right-hand side, right, nothing is affected. So x equals to 6, right? But for inequalities, what you realize is that the negative number may mess up the entire inequality. For example, if I give you part D is like, if let's say 50 is more than 30, this is correct, this inequality is correct. But if I times -3 to both sides, I get -450 and -90, right? But what do you realize is that if I were to put the same inequality like I do for equation, I just carry down the sign, right? What you realize is that -150 is actually not, is not more than for a -90, because you see, right, on the number 9, -150 is smaller than -90. So actually what happens is that whenever there is a negative sign, that is multiplied or divided, you flip the inequality, okay? Flip it. So it was originally on this side, and then we flip it to the other side. And you can see the examples here. You see, if I multiply +3, it does not change. But if I multiply a negative number, it flips the moment you multiply the negative number, okay? And so that is pretty much it. And you can try out the questions. I can do question 1A with you. Basically, you use the same ideas as equation. All you need to do is to get x alone, okay? So x is less than 4 because I divided both sides by 4. So that is how you simplify an inequality, okay? Meaning that you do the same things you do for equation. Just take note of the sign whenever there's a negative number. So your answer will be x is less than 4, okay? So same thing, make x alone, okay? So that is how you actually simplify an inequality, or in other words, it means to solve it, okay? And you can try the rest of the questions. It should be simple, just take note of the negative signs. One last thing over here, when we actually think of inequalities that are bounded, meaning that there are two inequalities for one value of the unknown y, okay? So then we think about it, if I actually write this out, this means that y is more than -2, okay? But it is less than or equals to 5, right? So if I were to write it out and they tell me that it is integers, right? So if it is more than -2, it cannot be -2. So it could be -1, it could be 0, it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then because it's less than and equals to or equals to, it will be 5. Okay, so this is how I actually find the possible values of y, and then I list out the possible values of x, and then I can find the greatest value possible for x plus y. So that is how you actually do this question, right? Other than that, you can challenge yourself, but I understand that this is a new topic, right? So do not really pressurize yourself to do too much. If you really cannot understand, do text me if you have any questions. And if not, thank you for listening, and see you next week.